This is the point where we can ask questions. He's here until about 4 o'clock, so if there's things that you want clarified or specific to your research.
I have a question related to the notion of building mental models. I acknowledge I come at this from a science education technology perspective. And the idea of creating a functional mental model in a learner that we hope to be consistent with the scientifically held conception of the concept of relationship. So we know that in studying diagrams, those from text, oftentimes what happens is the student, the learner, memorizes this diagram. You end up with not a functional mental model, but you end up with a picture of a diagram. So that what I often use is I talk about the water cycle. The science teachers, if I asked everybody to draw a picture of the water cycle, I would get an identical picture from everybody, and it would be very close to the picture that's in the text. It gets to the idea to use image in instruction to attempt to create interrelated systemic relationship. What we end up with is just a picture of a concept. And so when I think about societally moving to something like what you have expressed on the screen, I would get around this sort of learning problem based upon how humans intake information and process it. So to me, it sort of presents an issue. Because what we end up, it goes back to my original question, is the use of descriptive text forces the reader to create an intricate mental model of what's happening. That is different than if I just present that as an image, and the reader just memorizes the image, because that tends to be what humans do.
You won't be surprised if I don't disagree. How if I don't agree with you?
No.
So I'll disagree with you. And any number of examples that, for a start, the textbook had an image of the water cycle. Maybe because the image seemed a better way of representing the water cycle than a written description. The other thing that I would say is in what I've grandly called my theory, as a semiotic account, everything is always newly made. And so when the children are asked to reproduce an image of the water cycle, I would attempt to attend to the differences which you would find. I mean, next time, I don't know whether you're still doing sort of research in classrooms or whether you're, and you happen across, if you happen across that kind of example, collect if you can the 14, 15 or 25 examples that were produced, and then look really closely at the differences. And what you would find, I mean, a colleague of mine is actually doing at the moment a funded research project on copying. Yeah? Because copying is what the teachers ask children endlessly to do, and also deny that it ever happens. But when you look at what happens when children are asked to copy something, whether it is a painting or whether it is some diagram or something else, what you find is enormous differences, even in the most clearly well, with clear instructions and a relatively simple thing to be copied. What the children do is they kind of make it their own and then remake it in terms of what they think is significant for them. But the example that I would sort of use is there are certain kinds of things where you wouldn't want a written account. For instance, if you've got a car with this, what is it called? GPS kind of navigation system. Yeah, it could conceivably translate the information into writing. And you're driving around some neighborhood, trying to find a place you've never been to before. And we kind of reading this. In other words, maps of a certain kind, I think, are inherently probably better represented in visual form than in written form. I once broke my elbow playing squash, and you can see it's still the arm never straightened out. But I had the choice at the time of having an operation on it, and I kind of chickened out. But and I had to think, would I like a surgeon who was trained on carefully written instructions of what an elbow is like, or would I like to have a surgeon who actually saw a three-dimensional model, or maybe even a visual representation of an elbow? Do you see what I'm saying?
There's a difference between an expert thinking about it, thinking in a multi-representational fashion, as opposed to thinking about what it means to learn it and understand it. And for me, especially in science, where the model-making process is fundamental to the enterprise science, and it's much more, learning science is much more than just memorizing expressions of scientific models, if I can use that for what diagram.
I mean, I'd say two more things, and then we sort of discuss it later, but I would say you have no more guarantee that these young people would develop functioning mental models from a written account, which they read, or from a spoken account, which they've done, than they would from a visual account, in image form or a diagram or not. And then I would say also, if you had to kind of illustrate to them what a bar magnet was like, the magnetic field at the end of the bar magnet. Normally it's done with a demonstration, as you will know, of iron filings kind of scattered on a bit of paper over the bar magnet, these things arranged in certain ways, which is a visual representation. I mean, it's a demonstration and a visual representation, and that's how the bar magnet and the magnetic field are represented. And I think the demonstration itself is kind of a three-dimensional actual thing, and then the representation of the bar magnet is a visual thing. And I think the children kind of get something from that. So I think you need to kind of suspend disbelief for a while. But look at this issue of copying, because I think you'll be astonished at the differences in things which seemingly are. I showed two examples yesterday of children drawing from looking through the same microscope with the one kind of slide of an onion's, what's it called, the epidermis, drawing what they've seen, and the differences in, which is a kind of copying, draw what you can see, and the differences, I think, are sort of astonishing.
Yesterday you mentioned a process that's called transduction, which, as I understood, was the designer's, the process of the designer, I might use the word translate from one mode to another. I'm currently teaching a course from Johnson's mind tools perspective, where it's a perspective where the user, by virtue of interacting with, to use your language, a variety of modes, in somewhat systematic a way, engages in the information, and not to bounce off Ken's question, but creates models. And the ultimate goal, according to Johnson, is to create an instantiated mental model.